Now we are going to see the last topic of this chapter, and that is the phase retardation plates. Now these retardation plates, they are used to change the state of polarization of the light, and we will see how these phase retardation plates work. So firstly, what are these phase retardation plates? Now these plates, they are made up from the birefringent materials, the double refracting materials that we already studied in the previous lectures, for example calcite, quartz. So such materials are the double refracting materials. Now these plates, they are constructed using the double refracting uniaxial crystals. Now what is a uniaxial crystal? That we have already studied. Those materials which have only one optic axis. The materials, the birefringent materials which have only one optic axis are named as uniaxial materials or uniaxial crystals. Now these retardation plates, these are constructed from these double refracting uniaxial crystals such that they are cut in such a way, these retardation plates, they are cut in such a manner that the optic axis is parallel to the refracting faces. So let's say I have cut this portion from a double refracting material and I have cut it in such a way that the optic axis, so these dotted lines which I have drawn over here, these are parallel to the refracting faces. So this is the refracting face where the light will be incident. This face will be called as the refracting face. Now the optic axis is parallel to the refracting faces. So this is the refracting face and optic axis is parallel to the refracting faces. So we cut a plate from a double refracting uniaxial crystal such that its optic axis is parallel to the refracting faces. And then we make plane polarized light. To fall on these plates normal to the refracting phase. So the direction of propagation of the incident light will be perpendicular to the refracting phase, or you can say perpendicular to the optic axis, because optic axis is parallel to the refracting faces of this plate, and the incident light is made to fall normal to the optic axis. So plane polarized light is made to incident normal to the surface of the plate. Now this plane polarized light, it has electric field vibrations that occur in a single plane. So this is the plane polarized light and its vibrations of electric field will be in a single plane. So let's say the vibrations of the electric field for this case of incident light, for this case of plane polarized light, let's say the electric field vibrations, they are in this direction which I have shown over here. So these are not in the plane of paper, so they are tilted by some angle. And keep in mind the electric field vibrations, they will always be perpendicular to the direction of propagation of light. So these vibrations of electric field, they always are perpendicular to the direction of propagation of light, and we make this incident light to fall on the refracting phase normally. So they make 90 degree with the optic axis, and these electric field vibrations, they occur in a single plane. Now I have shown over here the incident light whose electric field vibrations, they make a certain angle with the optic axis. They are not parallel to the optic axis, but they make certain angle with the optic axis. Now this electric field, it can be divided into two parts. We can have two components of the electric field. One component will be along the optic axis, that is parallel to the optic axis, and another component of the electric field will be perpendicular to the optic axis of the crystal. So the two orthogonal components of the electric field, one will be along the optic axis and one will be perpendicular to the optic axis. So we can have two orthogonal components, one is along optic axis and another is perpendicular to the optic axis. Now we have seen in the case of optic axis, when we were studying the properties of the optic axis, there we saw that when the light is made to incident normally on the optic axis, then the light, it gets divided into E ray and O ray. The E and the O component, the extraordinary and the ordinary component, they travel in the same direction but with a different velocity. This concept we have already done when we were seeing the properties of the optic axis. So when the incident light is made to fall normally on the optic axis, it gets divided into E and the O component, and these two components, they travel in the same direction but with different velocity. So these two orthogonal components which we will have, one is parallel to optic axis and another is perpendicular to optic axis, they will travel in the same direction but with different velocities. So they will have different velocities. Now it depends upon the crystal. It depends upon the type of crystal which we are taking. If the component along the optic axis will move faster, or the component which is perpendicular to the optic axis will move faster. So it depends upon the type of material which we are taking. That is, we are saying that the two components, they travel in the same direction with different velocities. So obviously one component will travel faster than the other component. So it depends upon the type of crystal. Or you can say it depends upon the type of crystal which component will be traveling faster. So either it would be the component parallel to optic axis will move faster, or the other perpendicular component would move faster. So it depends upon the type of crystal. So I have taken the two components. I have divided the electric field component into two parts. So when these electric field vibrations, they will fall on this plate. So the component of electric field can be divided into two orthogonal components. One will be perpendicular to optic axis and another will be parallel to the optic axis. So this is perpendicular to optic axis and this is parallel to the optic axis. Now velocity of one ray will be greater than that of the other ray. So it depends upon the type of material, like which component will be moving faster than the other. So one will be called as the fast axis and another will be called as the slow axis. So here we have two axes. One, we are talking about the optic axis. So optic axis is this axis. This axis is the optic axis which we have taken, and one axis is perpendicular to the optic axis. Now we are saying that the two orthogonal components, they move with different velocities. So one will be moving faster than the other. So accordingly, we will say that one axis is the fast axis and another is the slow axis. So let's say if this parallel component is moving faster, so in that case the optic axis will be called as the fast axis, and the other axis, this axis which is perpendicular to optic axis, that will be called as slow axis, because we are taking an example that the perpendicular component is moving slower as compared to the component which is parallel to the optic axis. So therefore in that particular example we will say that optic axis is the fast axis and the one axis which is perpendicular to optic axis will be called as slow axis. So it depends upon the type of material which we are taking. Accordingly we will say that one axis is the fast axis and another is the slow axis. So if one component is moving faster than the other, then obviously the refractive index for that component will be different. If these two components, they are moving with different velocities inside the same material, then obviously these two components will experience different refractive indexes. So refractive index is given by, it is equal to ratio of velocity of light in vacuum to the ratio of the velocity of light in the medium, or you can say plate. In this case we are taking retardation plate. Now refractive index is given by velocity of light in vacuum over velocity of light in the medium. Now we can see that velocity of the light in the medium is inversely proportional to the refractive index. So if one light ray is moving slower, as compared to the other component, then the refractive index of that ray will be greater than that of the refractive index for another ray in the same material. So let's say if the velocity of this component is slower, the velocity of this component is less as compared to the velocity of this component, then we will say that refractive index for this component is greater as compared to the refractive index for this component inside the same material. So due to the difference in velocities, their refractive indices which are experienced by these components will also be different. So the refractive index for the slow ray, So slow and fast ray, it just depends upon their velocity. So the one which is moving slower will be called as slow ray, and the other component which is moving faster will be called as the fast ray. So refractive index for the case of slow ray will be greater than the refractive index for the case of fast ray. So therefore, due to the difference in velocities, one ray lags behind the another ray. So due to difference in velocities, the slow ray, the one ray which lags behind, so the one ray which lags behind will be called as the slow ray, and the another which moves faster will be called as fast ray. So one ray will travel at a greater speed as compared to the other one. So this is called as retardation, or this causes retardation. So there is a difference in velocities of the two orthogonal components of the same incident wave inside the same material. So the two orthogonal components, one is parallel to optic axis and another is perpendicular to the optic axis, their velocities are different in the same material, and this occurs due to the birefringence property of the crystal. So this difference in velocity is due to the birefringence property of the crystal. So refractive index for one component is greater than that of the another component. So due to which we call one as the slow ray and another will be called as the fast ray. So this is called as retardation. So they move, the two components, they move with different velocities inside the same material. So now I have taken the same diagram. So I have taken a retardation plate, and this is the optic axis, the vertical line is the optic axis, and the light, plane polarized light, is made to fall on the refracting phase perpendicular. It is making 90 degree with the refracting phase. Now the electric field vibrations of this light, they are making a certain angle with the optic axis. So we will divide this electric field vibration into two components. One will be parallel to optic axis and another will be perpendicular to the optic axis. Now we take D is the thickness of the crystal plate. So let's say D is the thickness of the plate. Now these two perpendicular components, these two orthogonal components, they will travel inside this plate with different velocities. So one will come out earlier as compared to the other one. So the one which is moving at a greater velocity will come out earlier as compared to other one. So this is the retardation, that one component is moving at a greater speed. Now we are seeing that what is the optical path which is traveled by the fast component. Now the fast component is experiencing a refractive index. The fast component, let's say, it experiences refractive index which is given by mu f, and the slow component, it experiences a refractive index inside the same material, and let's say that is mu s. Now obviously mu s is greater than mu f. So that we have already seen. So mu s will be greater than mu f. Now the optical path traveled by the fast component. The fast component, it can be either the component which is parallel to the optic axis or perpendicular to the optic axis. Fast and the slow components, they depend upon the type of material which you are taking. So the optical path traveled by the fast component. Now D is the geometrical path. D is the geometrical path which is traveled by each component. Now what is the optical path? Optical path is given by geometrical path times the refractive index. Now for fast component, the refractive index is mu f. Now optical path traveled by the fast component will be equal to mu f into d. D is the geometrical path. Now the optical path traveled by the slow component will be equal to mu s into d. So what is the path difference between these two rays? Now when these two rays will emerge out of this plate, when these two orthogonal components, when they will emerge out of this plate, what will be the path difference? So one is moving, one has traveled the optical path mu f into d, another component has traveled the optical path mu s into d. So what is the path difference between these two rays? It will be equal to mu s into d minus mu f into d, because mu s is greater than mu f, therefore we have taken this term on the front. So mu s into d minus mu f into d. So this is the path difference between these two rays when they emerge out of the plate. So this is the general expression of the path difference between the two orthogonal components. Now when these two orthogonal components, they come out of this plate, when these two orthogonal components will come out of this plate, they will again superimpose with each other. So one is the component which is parallel to optic axis and another is the component which is perpendicular to optic axis. So the electric field vibrations of the incident ray were divided into two components. Now these two components, when they will emerge out of this plate, they will again superimpose with each other and will give us the resultant electric field vibration. Now this is the path difference between the two orthogonal components. So if lambda by 4 path difference is introduced, so you can see that mu s will be constant and mu f will also be constant for the same material. Now this d, which is the thickness of the plate, this d can be varied. So we can change this thickness, so means we can change the path difference between the two components which are emerging out of the plate. So by changing this thickness, we can change the path difference. So if lambda by 4 path difference is introduced, now we take this d, we fix this thickness d in such a manner that this path difference comes out to be equal to lambda by 4. So if we fix this thickness d in such a manner that mu s into d minus mu f into d, it comes out to be equal to lambda by 4. Now lambda is the wavelength of the incident light. So if lambda by 4 path difference is introduced between the fast and the slow components, when monochromatic plane polarized light of wavelength lambda is incident normal to the surface. So if lambda by 4 path difference is introduced between the two components, fast and the slow components, when they emerge out of the plate, then that particular arrangement, that particular device will be called as quarter wave plate. So if a plate whose thickness we fix in such a manner that this mu s into d minus mu f into d comes out to be equal to lambda by 4. So we construct a plate in such a manner that the path difference between the two components comes out to be equal to lambda by 4, then that plate is called as quarter wave plate. So we are saying that this path difference, which is mu s into d minus mu f into d, it comes out to be equal to lambda by 4 and it will be equal to lambda by 4. So from here we can easily find what is the thickness of the plate. So what thickness we must take so that the plate introduces lambda by 4 path difference between the two components. So we will take d common and we will get mu s minus mu f. So that is equal to lambda by 4. So from here you can see that d will be equal to, for the case of quarter wave plate, it is equal to lambda by 4 as it is into mu s minus mu f. So this is the thickness that must be kept for the case of a plate to make it behave as a quarter wave plate. So a plate will behave as a quarter wave plate if its thickness is kept according to this formula. So lambda is the wavelength of the incident light and mu s and mu f, they are the refractive indices of the slow and the fast components. And again, if lambda by 2 path difference is introduced, so we take this d, thickness of the plate, in such a manner that this path difference is equal to lambda by 2. So in that case, that plate will be called as half wave plate. Half wave plate. So if a path difference of lambda by 4 is introduced, it is called as quarter wave plate. If lambda by 2 path difference is introduced, it is called as half wave plate. So from here you can easily find what should be the thickness. So mu s into d minus mu f, mu s into d minus mu f into d, it should be equal to lambda by 2. So from here we can find what should be the thickness of the plate so that it behaves as half wave plate. So d will be equal to lambda by 2 into mu s minus mu f. And at the last, a plate will introduce a path difference of lambda. So if a plate introduces a path difference of lambda by 4, it is called as quarter wave plate. If it introduces a path difference of lambda by 2, it is called as half wave plate. And if it introduces a path difference of lambda, it is called as full wave plate. So from here you can find the thickness in the same manner. Now if a lambda by 4 path difference is introduced, so what is the corresponding phase difference? So phase difference is equal to phase difference is equal to 2 pi by lambda into the path difference. So phase difference, corresponding phase difference can be calculated from this formula. Phase difference is equal to 2 pi by lambda into the path difference. Now if lambda by 4 is the path difference, then what is the corresponding phase difference? So in that case, phase difference will be equal to pi by 2. So quarter wave plate, it introduces lambda by 4 path difference between the two components, or you can say quarter wave plate introduces a phase difference of pi by 2. So it introduces a phase difference of pi by 2 between the two components, fast and the slow components, and this you have to remember and we will use it in the next article. Now if lambda by 2 path difference is introduced, then what is the corresponding phase difference? It is equal to pi. So phase difference is pi, and in this case if lambda path difference is introduced, then phase difference will be equal to 2 pi. Now we are going to see how do we generate elliptically polarized light from quarter wave plate. So quarter wave plate is the one which introduces lambda by 4 path difference, or you can say pi by 2 phase difference between the fast and the slow components. Now we are going to generate elliptically polarized light from a quarter wave plate. So when a plane polarized light falls on a quarter wave plate, then the light which gets emerged out is the elliptically polarized light, and we are going to prove that when a plane polarized light falls on a quarter wave plate, then the light which gets emerged out of the plate will be the elliptically polarized light, and in a special case it will be the circularly polarized light. So we are going to see how do we generate elliptically polarized light from quarter wave plate. So elliptically polarized light, it results from the combination of two orthogonal linearly polarized light beams of unequal amplitudes and phase difference of pi by 2. So this is just the definition of elliptically polarized light that we have already done in one of the lectures. So elliptically polarized light, it is made up of the two orthogonal linear components whose amplitudes are not the same. There we saw that E1 is not equal to E2 and a phase difference of pi by 2. So there we had seen that when E1 is not equal to E2 and the phase difference between the two orthogonal components is pi by 2, so this condition generates elliptically polarized light. So this is the definition. And circularly polarized light is made from the two orthogonal linear polarized light beams of equal amplitudes and a phase difference of pi by 2. So if E1 is equal to E2, E1 and E2, these are the amplitudes of the two orthogonal components. So if E1 comes out to be equal to E2 and phase difference between these two components is pi by 2, then we will have circularly polarized light. So now we are going to see how elliptically polarized light and circularly polarized light can be generated using the quarter wave plate. So we consider that we make linearly polarized beam to be incident on a quarter wave plate. So here I have linearly polarized, or you can say plane polarized light beam. It falls on the quarter wave plate, and this quarter wave plate, as I have already said, its optic axis is parallel to the reflecting phase. So this is the reflecting phase of the quarter wave plate, and let's say this is the optic axis. Okay, so let's say this is the fast axis and this is the optic axis, and this one which is perpendicular to the fast axis will be called as the slow axis. So let's say this axis is y axis and this is the x axis. So this is x axis, this one is the y axis, vertical one, and the direction of propagation of light. The light wave, it is propagating along the z-axis. So this one is the z-axis. So let a linearly polarized beam be incident on a quarter wave plate, making an angle of theta with the optic axis. So this angle theta is the angle which is made by the electric field vibrations. Now these are the electric field vibrations, and they make an angle of theta with the fast axis, or you can say with the optic axis. So here I am taking that optic axis is the fast axis. So the electric field vibrations of the incident light ray, they are making an angle of theta with the fast axis, and wave is propagating in the z direction. Now what will be the electric field? What will be the electric field of the fast component? So this electric field, it can be divided into two parts. One will be along the fast axis and one will be along the slow axis, or you can say x-axis. So the electric field along the fast axis is written as EF vector is equal to, it can be written as E cos theta, and this is along the y-axis, so it will be j cap. Now EF vector, it is the component of the electric field which is along the fast axis. So now this E which I have taken, it is the magnitude, it is the amplitude of the electric field vibrations, the maximum displacement. So EF vector will be given by E cos theta j cap, and ES vector will be written as E sin theta I cap. So electric field, it can be divided into, electric field vibrations of the incident light can be divided into two parts. One will be along the fast axis and will be given by E cos theta, and another is along the slow axis and it will be E sin theta. So now this fast and the slow components, in these components, this E which I have written, this is the amplitude of the incident light, amplitude of electric field of the incident light. So what will be the total electric field? So actually the electric field vibrations, these electric field vibrations, they are sinusoidal. As we have already seen that in the case of plane polarized light, these electric field vibrations, they are sinusoidal. So this theta is fixed because we have already said that the light is propagating along the z-axis and is making an angle of theta with the fast axis. So this theta can be kept manually. We can change theta and we can fix it at a particular value. So let's say we fix it at 30 degrees. So throughout the experiment, it will remain at 30 degrees. So theta will be fixed and amplitude is fixed. So this will be fixed and this will be fixed. But actually the electric field vibrations, they are sinusoidal. So they change with time. So what will be the electric field, total net electric field along the y-axis, which is the fast axis? It will be equal to EF vector. It will be equal to EF vector into sine of omega t. So they change with time. They are sinusoidal functions. So the net electric field, the actual electric field along the y-axis, let's say we write it as EF vector into sine of omega t, and the electric field component along the x-axis, it will be equal to ES vector. Now over here, these components which I am taking, these two components which I am taking along the y and the x-axis, these are the components of the electric field when the light gets out of the plate. So this is the incident light. It can be divided into two components. Now when this light ray, it will emerge out of the quarter wave plate, in that case I am taking what are the y and the x components. So y component is a sinusoidal function. So x component, it will have a phase difference of, there will be a phase difference of pi by 2, because this is the working of quarter wave plate. When a plane polarized light falls on the quarter wave plate, the electric field vibrations can be divided into two components, and when these two components, they travel in the quarter wave plate, when these two components, they travel in the quarter wave plate, they travel with different velocities, and when they emerge out of the quarter wave plate, a phase difference of pi by 2 is introduced between the two components. So here I have taken the y component and I have written it in this manner. Now the other component, x component, it will be written as sine of omega t plus pi by 2, because we have said that quarter wave plate, it introduces a phase difference of pi by 2 between the two orthogonal components when they emerge out of the plate. So one will be EF vector sine omega t and another will be ES vector sine of omega t plus pi by 2. Now this EF vector and ES vector, these are constants because E is constant, theta is constant. So therefore EF vector and ES vector, they will be having constant same magnitude. Not same but constant magnitudes. It will have one constant magnitude and it will have another constant magnitude. So throughout the experiment, these components, fast and the slow, these expressions, they will be constant, but actually the electric field in a EM wave is sinusoidal. So I am taking the net electric field along Y will be written as this into sine of omega t and another will be written as this into sine of omega t plus pi by 2, and these are the two components. These expressions are valid when the two components, they have come out of the quarter wave plate. Only then a phase difference of pi by 2 will be introduced. So what will be the magnitude? So firstly we will write over here what is EF vector. It is j cap E cos theta into sine of omega t, and this will be written as I cap E sine theta into sine of omega t plus pi by 2. And what is sine of omega t plus pi by 2? It is equal to cos of omega t. Sine of pi by 2 plus theta is cos of theta. So it will be cos of omega t. So now we are writing just the magnitudes. So EY will be written as, in the case of magnitudes, EY can be written as, now this is EF and this is ES. So it will be written as EF in terms of magnitudes only. EY will be written as EF into sine of omega t, and EX can be written as ES, this is ES into cos of omega t. So from here EY divided by EF, this will be equal to sine of omega t, and EX by ES, it will be equal to cos of omega t. So this is what we get after introducing a pi by 2 phase difference between the two components. Now let's take the square on both hand sides of these two equations and we add them. So on this case, in this expression we will have sine square omega t, and in this expression we will have cos square omega t. So now we are doing the square of both these equations and we will add them. So we will get EY square, EY by EF whole square plus EX by ES whole square, that will be equal to sine square omega t plus cos square omega t, and that will be equal to 1. So this will be EY square over EF square plus EX square over ES square, that will be equal to 1. And this is the equation of ellipse. So this is the equation of an ellipse. So EF in this case is not equal to ES. This EF is not equal to ES. In that case, the light which will emerge out of the quarter wave plate will be the elliptically polarized light. Now if EF becomes equal to ES, so these two components, they will be taken on the right hand side and we will get the equation of a circle. And that happens when theta is equal to 45 degrees. So EF should be equal to ES for the case of circularly polarized light. Only then this equation, it will be converted into the equation of a circle. So EF should be equal to ES. So EF will be equal to ES when theta will be equal to 45 degrees. So when theta is equal to 45 degrees, EF will be equal to E cos 45 degree, and that will be equal to E divided by root 2, and ES will be equal to E sine 45 degrees, and that is also equal to E divided by root 2. So this equation will become, this equation of ellipse, it will become EY square over EF square. Now what is EF square? It is E square by 2 plus EX square. We have EX square as it is, divide by ES square, and that is E square divided by 2. So this is equal to 1. So this implies EY square plus EX square, that is equal to E square divided by 2. So this is the equation of a circle and this was the equation of an ellipse. So if theta is not equal to 45 degrees, other than theta is equal to 45 degrees, the light which will emerge out of the quarter wave plate will be elliptically polarized light. And if theta is equal to 45 degrees, the light which will emerge out of the quarter wave plate will be a circularly polarized light. So this we have proved by derivation. So you have to remember, whenever a plane polarized light falls on a quarter wave plate, the light which will emerge out is the elliptically polarized light. And if the vibrations of electric field, they make an angle of theta with the fast axis, they make an angle of 45 degrees with the fast axis, in that case we will get circularly polarized light. So if theta is 45 degrees, we will get circularly polarized light, and other than that angle we will get elliptically polarized light. So you have to remember